What's up, guys? Here with Esme, the Magical Cat. So this is a very special episode, right? So we talked about March astrology. This is the most intense month of 2025 by far. We have so much going on. We have Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde. We have 2 eclipses, right? So it's eclipse season. So I went into detail on all 4 of those. Now, not only did I do that, Esme, but then I started realizing, like at the end of the video, I started talking about how this represents what this represents in the grand scale of things, like how this reflects the overall astrology. I went into Uranus and Gemini, Neptune and Saturn and Aries, and just the grand scale astrology. So I thought, maybe I should just make this a podcast. So I want to know what you guys think. Should I make this a podcast? Should I have different astrologer guests and guests of all sorts on different episodes and do this? I don't know how often I do it because I'm a Pisces, but let me know what you guys think, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Esme also. All right, welcome to Cosmo Sessions number 51, the other 52. So guys, look, this is the notes I took for today, so that's a big deal. Let's start by talking about the first one, which is Venus retrograde. So we'll go chronologically just to make it easier. So basically, Venus retrograde is very rare. It only happens once every 18 months, guys. I don't know what I just did with my hands. Once every 18 months. So basically, what's happening in this time right now? So right now, Venus is ahead of the sun, right? Venus is in Aries, the sun is in Pisces. So Venus is in a better position because Venus is a evening star, meaning, that when that's the case, there's usually the world is a more peaceful place. The Venusian qualities are more illuminated, shall I say. Now this will change on the 22nd or around 22nd-ish is when they conjunct, and then after it goes invisible for a while, then I don't know if it's 8 days to 10, 15 days. I still have to figure that out. I texted my friend who's into Babylonian astrology, but he didn't answer me yet. But regardless, around April, and then it's there for 8 months, in where it is ahead. Venus is ahead of the sun, making it Venus. You know what I mean? Venus is. You get what I'm trying to say. The sun is ahead of Venus, so it makes Venus a morning star, where it's already risen before the sun rises every morning, which makes the world more about fighting. It reduces the loving quality. Now, this isn't Armageddon, but it's like that for eight months. So let's say that. So basically, what will happen Venus retrograde? So let's say the dates first, March 1st to April 12th. As I said, only once every 18 months, so it's a big deal. Like people who have this natally, I see a lot of clients with it natally, and it's a huge deal. You have a lot to learn karmically about love, about self-love, and this is what that period is too. So a lot of issues around relationships. Now, people will talk a lot about how this relates to love relationships, but not about how your relationship to yourself, right? That is very important. Now, that is actually, in my opinion, this is the epitome of the whole concept of Venus, is that in astrology, people, and in astrology and in the world, people make they focus so much on other. Oh, what's wrong with the other person? It's their fault. Instead of looking at themselves, right? The person that breaks up with someone, instead of taking the 8-9 months, a year, whatever amount of time to be kind of in their own energy, to be introspective a little bit, they just jump right into a new relationship. Now, I know that's not everyone, but I'm just saying. So a lot, and the date, because Venus has a perfect cycle, it would be around this exact time, March 2017. Now, whenever anyone tells me that, I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea. I literally have no idea what happened in that time. I maybe like I could think of I'm not good with that. I think that's my Pisces, but maybe you guys are. So I don't know. And whatever themes were playing themselves out then, they will repeat. That's because of this the way that Venus moves, right? So that's very interesting. Now, in terms of starting a relationship, I would say Venus retrograde it's if something comes, don't push it away because of astrology. Now, it could be a bit unsteady, but a lot of times very karmic relationships are that very thing, because that's why they're karmic, because there's something that the two souls have to get right in this lifetime. So I would never say like don't start a relationship during a certain period. You just it's kind of like horary astrology. There's that universal time to ask the question. It's like that with karmic relationships. Like there's usually a fated time for one to start when they're really, really big. Anyways, so what to expect for that period? Well, it's going, so just like the Mercury retrograde I'll talk about in a sec, it's going from Aries to Pisces. So we have this dynamic of going between this very first sign, new beginnings, kind of like new solutions to old problems, and then back to Pisces, the last sign, which is that very karmic energy, that very compassionate, blurred boundaries, old flings. It's almost like, did you really learn the lessons? That's sort of how energy works a lot of times, is that you think you've learned something, and then you get like I was telling my client this the other day, it's like you might completely have passed something, or no, it wasn't my client, it was my landlord, who's also really into astrology, and we were both talking about Venus square Pluto that we both have, and she's like, yeah, I'm not like that at all anymore. I was like, yeah, but you still get tested, even if you've completely like gone past a way of existing, you can still just have this massive test, right? So anyways, expect the unexpected in that realm, and I think that maybe the symbolism of Aries, which is the self, and Pisces, which is the collective, could be about how in one part of this retrograde it's going to be really us looking at ourselves and perhaps our role in relationships, and then the other one might be more about the universal good, more about karmic tendencies that we have personally, and then also with respect to our own spirituality and how our own spirituality connects to our relationships, right? Because if you enter a relationship, right, and you don't have your own sense of spirituality, meaning not necessarily like you meditating on your own every day, but if you're someone who has a cycle, let's say when you're single, you're all good, you have kind of you figured out what you need to do to be happy and to be secure, right? And then you get into a relationship, and then boom, you blow all that stuff away. Like that's something that needs to be looked at, right? Because then when you have your next karmic relationship, it's not, and it really isn't about looking at life like, oh, I'm single, I'm going to be single forever. It's like, you're not God. It's just, I know a lot of people think like that, especially when they've been single for a while, but at the same time, it's like, why would you be, like there's just as many, like the odds are just, because I've been single for a year, right? A year, over a year. I don't even know, I don't count. What month is it? Yeah. Around a year anniversary. But like I just think for a lot of people, like a lot of times you talk to people like, oh, I'll never find someone. I get it. There's a big divide between the females and the males in today's world, right? I get it. Comprendo. But it's just like you saying that is creating that reality. It's creating that story that it's not going to happen if that's what you want. And sometimes when you don't want something, or you're down for you're down to be single, you're like, okay, like that would be cool, but I see the benefits of being in this peaceful state of me dating myself, as I said in one of my old videos, that's when you're more attractive. There's a reason that I can only speak for men. I am my most attractive, which this pisses me off so much, when I'm in a relationship. No, I don't fall for that devious divine. That's not divine. That's the devil. Just joking. But like, I don't fall for that, But anyways, whatever. So that's that. What else did I write down? I wrote healing in this area / look back and something. Yeah. So to my point, we have to understand that this period of time is about looking back. It's about looking in. It's more, Venus is really like Venus love energy. We flow with that energy in our everyday life. But then it's like, in what ways am I giving too much? Right? We'll talk about this with the eclipses later on in this video. But in what ways am I giving too much? And I'm gonna write that down for this. But yeah, like, you know, do you have any people pleasing tendencies, right? Are there for most people, there's something they do when they're in a relationship that when they leave the relationship, or if they're dead honest with someone, they would say, I wish I didn't do this, but I fall into this wave into this tendency. Sometimes it's around communication. Now, if you're in a relationship during Venus retrograde, I think that, you know, all tough transits, whether it's to the composite, whether it's to one of the individuals in a partnership, it just tests. Have you communicated about this? Have you made a contingency plan if this happens, if that happens? So different people are more solid. Some people's relationships are like built on very shaky foundations, and they rise really high. They create the massive skyscraper, and then when things get bad, it's that they didn't fix at the foundation. It's like then boom, it falls. Other people, they've spent a long time building this really solid foundation. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but you guys know what I'm saying. Okay. Also, dinero, money, l'argent, ban. This is another area. Venus rules money, so there could be some karmic themes around that. I don't want to give like the whatever, the take of like, oh, everyone's money is gonna be, money is gonna be tough. I know in the last few days, since yesterday, crypto has really been amazing. It gone down a bunch. I'm just being sarcastic. Sucks, but hopefully it turns around. I think it will, but I haven't really looked at the astrology of that. It will, but yeah. So just a time also to be more introspective around finances. Okay. Okay, so then we can also say, yeah, so as I was saying before, March 22nd is the date that Venus does conjunct the sun, but before that date, you could count 10 days. I still need to see what my friend says. I'll probably know next video, but the rays of the sun are larger. I guess you could just use it as a combust. So maybe you could give it like 8 degrees or so, where 8 degrees before the 8 days before the 22nd. So like the 14th, around then it would go invisible. Don't quote me on this. This is just around that time, right? And obviously when Venus is combust or Venus is in the rays of the sun, it's less powerful. Now there will be one day in there, the 22nd, where it will be a Cazimi, which will be like the most potent, most powerful energy. But after that, it will still be invisible, and then it will reappear around like the 30th then. So, and then it will reappear as a evening star. Anyways, enough about that. Yeah, so as I said, when it's an evening star for the next 9 months, not 8 months, excuse me. Yeah, there's just usually more traumatic stuff on Earth. Not to scare you guys. This is just the Venus cycle, right? It goes back and forth between the two, and because Venus is about passive stability, love, comprehension, and all that, it's like the difference between Aries and Libra. When planets are an evening star, they're very, very considerate, diplomatic, and as you can tell, Venus, a planet, it's a feminine energy that likes to be like that. Now, when Venus is in, as a morning star, it is more Aries energy, more active, more assertive, right? So it can kind of remove some of that flowy energy. But anyways, okay, so yeah, I guess like the question is like, what relationships / self-love have you been attracting? That doesn't make sense. I wrote that down. What type of relationship patterns and how have you been attracting? Whether it's conscious or unconscious. And then when it comes to self-love, what have you been giving? Is there anything you've been giving up, right? At the expense to just be in a relationship, or the expense to just have things, not just in romantically, have things in general be okay. Okay, next we have Mercury. So Mercury retrograde in Aries to Pisces. This is on March 15th to April 7th. So I told you Venus is the most rare. Mercury is less rare than that. Write this down. Okay. So basically so Mercury retrograde, as we know, is a time of, this one is very much about reevaluations. And every Mercury retrograde, as we know, gives us an opportunity to look at our thought processes and to really think, to really have things slow down. Like in the birth chart, karmically, it talks about it's for people who need to really examine from karmic tendencies of either over speaking or under speaking, or having self-limiting beliefs, stuff of that nature. Anything going on cognitively or mentally, even with your own communication, because as we know, the way we speak creates spells, right? If I say, "Oh, I'm such a dumbass," "Oh, I'm such an idiot," "Oh God, like I can never get anything right," well, then I'm not, that it's that cliche thing, but it is very, very true that stuff does over time. It manifests itself, right? So, I think that people talk a lot about this being very chaotic. Now, for people like myself with Mercury and Pisces, and people who have more of these like placements where your mind is already like this, it's like very abstract already or whatever. I never really feel much during these periods. It reminds me of like people who have ADD, and they're like, yeah, when I take like a drug, ADHD medication, I get way more relaxed. And you have people who don't have it, and they're like, yeah, I feel like I'm going crazy when I take it. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, something like that, right? Like where different people have different experiences with it based on their chart. Now, I would say that obviously there is the theme of miscommunications. There's the theme of, especially coming from Aries and going to Mercury. And there is going to be a day, I wrote down March 11th. That's when they conjunct each other. Well, I guess, yeah, so that'd be before Mercury goes retrograde. It'll be still in shadow. But that's when Venus will conjunct Mercury before it goes retrograde. But that'll be a very big day for reflection. But anyways, besides that, yeah. So I think that yeah, it's important to really, really revisit any decisions you made in any Mercury retrograde time, right? And look at, have more of an introspective kind of review mindset around different things. And when it comes to communication, is this the way that I want to come across? Is this the way that I want to speak to myself? I think it always gives us a chance for that. And yeah, I guess I've never been. Everyone always says avoid major decisions, don't sign contracts. For me, I would say yes when it comes to contracts. When it comes to starting big things, it's if you can hold off on them, it's better. But like I was saying before, I really think that a lot, like there's like if you look at the chart, like I look at so many famous people's charts, right? And the amount of retrograde Mercury I see is insane. Now you could say, okay, well that's because that's a lot of artists, but it's not always artists, right? So it does give a level of someone who's looking at things from a different perspective, and maybe that's something you can use for this Mercury retrograde. Okay, but I don't feel like I needed to talk so much about that one. So next we have, let's see. So then March 14th is the lunar eclipse. So the lunar eclipse is at Virgo 27 degrees, and I had a chart for it. So let me pull that up. And obviously, so This one is huge when it comes to letting go, especially like letting go. Let me just pull that up really one sec, guys. Is this the one? Yeah. So when I look at that chart, so it really reflects this need to look at life from a more spiritual perspective, right? Because these lunar eclipses, full moons, right? The lunar eclipses are a full moon with a more karmic juice to them, with more fate added to them. So when you talk about Virgo and Pisces, and then you think about what's happening now in the world, there's so many bad things happening. A lot of people are having issues with finances, right? And just more practical areas of life, which is very linked to Virgo. Now, when you talk about the Pisces Virgo axis, where the eclipse is, right, where the nodes are, and this is a very strong one, right? They're only separated by 4 degrees. You have Neptune also opposite, with the Sun, and Saturn with the Sun, and the North Node, obviously, right? So you have all this Pisces energy, which is asking us. It's pulling us from Virgo, represents like the day-to-day life. I always say that they're like, in what ways, the question I have for you is like, in what ways do you allow yourself to worry that everything is not going to be okay? And can you look back on periods of your life? And I tell myself this all the time. I'm not perfect at this, by the way, guys. Just because I talk about this stuff doesn't mean I am perfect at it. But can you look back, so if there's something that's really difficult, like I had something like a few days ago that I was like, oh my God, I was nervous for 3 or 4 days about this thing. And then it went fine because I was like praying about it, man, and whatever. But can you think about times in your life where you thought you were absolutely screwed? You were so shook about an outcome happening. And then when that event actually came, you were fine. And even if something difficult did happen, you figured it out, right? So we can all look back on things like that. And I always say Virgo energy, like when you're trying to go from Virgo to Pisces in a way, you're trying to balance them out. I'll talk about that in a sec. It's not about letting go the stuff that the fact that you need to make X amount of dollars to pay your rent and pay for your kids like food. That's not what I'm saying. It's about understanding that there's always that Pisces represents divine inspiration, divine energy, the connecting force that unites us all, right? Illumination. And because Sun is so close to Neptune and the nodes, there is this opportunity for that exact thing, right? That spiritual illumination. Now, or enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. The Sun is enlightening Neptune in this eclipse. Now, what pulls one back from enlightenment is the worries one has, the sort of rigid reality one has built around them, where there's always 1,000 reasons there's always 1,000 things you can worry about every single day that can keep you away from the grand love of God. And I say that all the time, not always in that exact manner, but it's true. If you know people who, now when I say people who are Virgo, I know there's going to be Virgos watching this, and I have a lot of Virgo friends, and I think that there's 2 types of Virgos. I think that there's Virgos who are too far on the Virgo end, which is still fine, still really, really good people. And there's Virgos who are kind of and same with Pisces, right? It's about balancing out that axis with Pisces, which is the opposite sign. So in Virgo, there's always Pisces, and in Pisces, there's always Virgo, but they have to tap into each other. So a big part of what Virgo learns from Pisces is the ability to, like, Virgo, do your best work, organize your life as best as you can. Pisces, not be overly perfectionist. Know that, okay, I've done all I could. I've prayed. Pisces, right? I am, morally good. I'm Pisces, that's everything. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if I pray, if I do what I think God wants me to do, if I am the best person that I can be, can I surrender and leave it up to God? Leave the rest up to the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, and just go to sleep at night knowing that, like a good teacher, God is most silent during the most difficult tests. And eclipses tend to be very fated tests in that respect. So proof of that is the fact that the nodes are what make eclipses eclipses. And as we know in astrology, the nodes are all about fate, destiny, karma. And you have the North Node in this case, right, in Pisces. So in what ways are you being overly perfectionist, overly rigid about your reality? What about, if you think about Virgo ruled by Mercury, how is your mind? How are your thoughts? What magic or what realities are you manifesting from your thoughts? That's my question for you. How are you keeping yourself? And then also we'll see in the next one, in the solar eclipse, it's a big, I think a big thing is about boundaries and being, for yourself, and it's okay to be selfish, right? But like, in what ways are your boundaries too low? And maybe you're surrounding yourself with people who are keeping you more in this 3D energy, right? And 2D, 3D, whatever. It's very sensitive, this Neptunian archetype that we all have. It's not about you having these signs in your chart or not. It's archetypes that we all have. So yeah, that's how I look at that is how am I allowing my mind, Mercury, to get away from my crown chakra and third eye, Pisces, right? Crown chakra being my ability to feel like when I sit, even when I go through the difficulties in life every day, excuse me, allergies, even when I go through the difficulties of life every day, that I still am connected to God. I still am connected to the whole. And then third eye, it's instead of horizontal time, vertical time, right? So when you meditate, and I'm not perfect at this at all, but when you meditate, there is definitely some magic that happens, especially with this Neptunian energy around that. So I highly recommend anyone, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Now, I try to do a 30-day challenge on my Instagram, and I stopped. Of course, I said, I hope I don't do this. I stopped after like 5 days, but I just stopped. I don't know. I shouldn't have done that, because then I was like posting my story I just didn't want to post something in my story every day. I should have thought that before. But the point is, yeah, it's simple. So I would say too that when we talk about universal love, that this eclipse, there's a lot of endings here, and this whole time period, and March is really setting this off, is the new beginning, right? The end of March, Neptune moves into Aries, right? Finally, I'm the biggest smile on my face. Now it's going to move back into Pisces, but you have no idea how much I've gone through. It's insane. Since the start of 2022, I had it square my moon, and it hasn't stopped hitting all my important planets since then, including now Mercury, Sun, Ascendant, exact degree. Well, now I guess, yeah, it's going to be moving. So that'll be good. A little relief for us mutable placements, but we still have Saturn. Yay. Not. But anyways, okay, so let's see here. So then there's the solar eclipse. So the solar eclipse, write that down. And did I tell you guys the degree? The lunar eclipse, I don't think I told you. It is at 23 Pisces, 23 23 Virgo is where the moon's at. And I also didn't say, so I'm gonna not finish this. Looking at the chart, hey Esme, come here, Esme. She's mad at me she's not mad at me, but I thought she was, because I accidentally caught her tail in something today. But she scratched me last night on accident. So yeah, so we have Uranus, the planet of revelations, of liberty, of freedom, nearly exactly trine the moon. Yeah, exact degree, less than half a degree away, trine the moon. So if this isn't a sign, and you have Mercury, which is now direct in Cancer, trine the Sun and Saturn, and you have the Sun exactly, you have Saturn opposing this exactly, right? So another element of this one is about Saturn being so close, being opposite the moon, Neptune being opposite moon. So there can be lots of restrictions, lots of spiritual fears in your way around this. And then also there could be, so the question, so it's like, how can you use your intuition, your downloads that you get, Uranus, and how can you head in your own direction, even if it doesn't, because a Saturn opposition could be, it could also be represent society, your family, something that's more rigid, that kind of wants to keep you more in this pattern of thinking and pattern of existing. So there can definitely be some tension with this one. But then when you look at this Pisces energy as a whole, it's like just new beginnings. But it is kind of like jumping off that cliff for the first time into that water, into that ocean, which is such a beautiful metaphor, because it's like Neptune is the ocean of everything. We think we're all different parts, right? It's like this whole, and it's this, I think it's Buddhist or something, right? Where we think that we are, as was feeding me downloads on my lap, we think that we are individual islands separated by the water, right? But in reality, the water unites us. We are the water. The water is a part of us. The water is God. So in our normal consciousness, we think we're just like these little islands that are so, we're so far out, we can kind of see the other island over there, and there's water between us. But what's the water, right? Water is Neptune. Neptune rules water. So when we can understand the water and become the water, we become that divine energy. We become that connecting energy between, we realize that we are all that. Now, I know everyone says that, and a lot of people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's something that you say, and then everyone kind of takes it in how they do. Okay, solar eclipse. So the solar eclipse is at what degree? I have it right here. Let me open the chart. So the solar eclipse. So this is a little bit of a different one, because it is it's a wider orb. So the other one we saw was a very tight orb, or quite tight orb. This one, it's out of sign. So meaning the north. So in an eclipse, it's typically when the north node and the moon / sun, because they're opposite, are, the nodes are with the moon and with the sun, right? Now this one counts, but the north node's at 26 Pisces and the moon is at 8 Aries. So it's a more loose one. But regardless, there's still a lot of meaning. So as I kind of hinted at, so it happens at, so 8 Aries so it's a new moon, but it's an eclipse one. So this one is really just like this new cycle. It's in the first sign in Aries, right after the astrological new year. It's really about you doing you, right? And March 29th. Just want to make sure. So when we think about what I talked about before, right, about the that lunar eclipse, we talked about with Venus and Mercury retrograde. It all comes to this. It all comes to a clash here, where it's like, okay, those three were a lot more internal. Now it's asking you, the energy is more like, how can I do, what can I do? What am I here for? Right? That's a lot of like what this month is really making us think. And then at this point, we're kind of past that energy. The month is about to end, right? And it's like, okay, it's Aries time. It's the first sign. It's about new beginnings. How am I going to take this energy? It's like, I always use the Star Wars reference of Yoda, the time where Luke Skywalker went with Yoda and learned all that stuff, all the really important Jedi stuff in that swamp. It's just super symbolic of Neptune, this swamp with the fog, Neptune. That's like a Neptune transit in a movie. And time we have no idea how long he spent down there. It could have been years, right? But that's how Neptune distorts time. Now, with this, but like the point is, he learned the most important stuff in a place that's the least sexy, where he was the least visible. And that's sometimes how life is that sometimes we learn our most important lessons when we're in a way more introspective period, where we're not, and then we go out in the real world, or we have, let's say, relationships, or we have things with our career, we have circumstances that show up that test us. And then we're able to see like, damn, I've come a long way. And don't worry if sometimes there's slip ups, right? And there's certain people in our life where the lesson is that you need to have a boundary with this person, or you need to be plugging into that Pisces third eye. So when it comes to the solar eclipse, to me, it is about what are my ambitions, right? Where do I want to focus my Aries Martian energy? In what ways have I been bad with boundaries? In what ways have I not given to myself? Right? Like there's a saying: the tree that allows the tree that allows itself to get picked. The tree that allows itself to get picked the most has the less leaves. It's something like that. I always butcher it. I was told it many years ago. It sounded way better when this Indian holy lady told me it. But the whole point is that it's nice to give yourself away, or to do things for people, but you really have to be careful. I talked about this in my video last week with Black Moon Lilith, especially with I forget which one it was, which house it was, but there's certain people who, I think it was the 6th house, right? Or was it the 11th? I don't even know. Well, regardless, like I should probably remember. There's people who give, and then they don't. These people turn into their enemies, or these people like stop, start taking them for granted or whatever, right? And the whole point is that, or there's people who just are too afraid to step out on what society finds they should be doing, right? They don't, or their family or society, and because of that, they just stay in line, and they just don't ever go towards their individual self. So Aries, the first sign, is very much about freedom. It's that childish impulse to just do and think about later. So there's been enough thinking all March, and Aries is like, how have my fears held me back? And how can I set intentions related to my personal goals, right? Of what I want to do, not what society tells me, I should be doing. And how do I move towards these? So I look at the whole chart. Obviously, you got retrograde Venus conjunct North Node and Saturn, which that's fascinating. And Neptune. So you got Neptune with Venus still, right? So there's a big theme of this one. And then you've got Mercury's at 0 Aries, the retrograding. So it's about to enter Pisces, right? So Mercury retrograde, remember, it will enter Pisces right after, right? It would be on the 30th, of March 30th, right? So also know that this period, March 30th, March 31st, April 1st, around then, that is a very, very rich time. Especially the 31st, like this is an amazing time for spirituality and for, all these planets coming together, right? Having 2 retrogrades meeting. Mercury, I guess Jupiter, I guess Venus will move kind of away from that. So yeah, really the 29th to 30th is very, very, very amazing energy. And to have that in an eclipse is very symbolic of new potential for new romantic bonds forming. Now I know it's retrograde, but like it could be like some karmic themes coming back. But I think with this Neptune energy, you really have to watch out for being overly idealistic when it comes to anything related to love. There's a lot of energy vampires in the world today, and a lot of people really are craving a relationship, but that's a good one because it seems like it's hard to come by for a lot of people. Now, so it's kind of this interesting mix of like Aries, me, Pisces, the collective. Now, there's only good aspects or like conjunctions and trines here, but I think that in sextiles. But I think that the big thing going on is it's basically like me or you versus any types, because you have Saturn involved here too. Wow. So I'm fascinated to see how this plays out for people, because one way you could read this is like there's still something that might be enticing or that still might carry some karmic weight for you but then it's like, how do you balance that out with what you need to do? And I always tell this to certain clients, to certain charts, right? Anyone can book a reading with me, message me at my Instagram, or email me at jessenissonastrology@gmail.com, or jessenisonastro on Instagram is a good way, but I've had a lot of trouble with my messages, so probably just email me. But yeah, like you really want to kind of move, like it's okay to be selfish when it relates, like for example, a lot of people have trouble moving away from the friends that they grew up with, right? Even though they've been evolving, and the people they grew up with have kind of stayed the same and kind of pulled them back this older version of themselves. And I tell them, it's like, okay, like let's say that this person wants to become an astrologer, wants to do something to help people. It's like, so you're telling me that you're gonna stay the same to make a few people happy, when who knows how many people you could save their lives, or you could really change their lives or bring a lot to their lives if you pursue this other path, right? And anyone that says that something you're doing in that way is selfish, that's not a real friend. You know, a real friend isn't someone who gets insecure when you're growing and tries to pull you down their level. It's someone who, you know, even if you're going a different direction, and even if it means that you guys might, you know, be less, you know, who knows, maybe it's someone who respects you in your guys' bond or whatever, you know, enough to not try to manipulate it, right? Who's someone who can see the energy and know, okay, I can let go. If it's a real friend, someone that person's not just gonna, you know, things are gonna happen how they're supposed to. And a lot of this whole astrology, it takes a lot. It's a lot about how much do you trust. So what themes could be coming up? Well, Venus retrograde, I said money issues. You know, this thing's happening. How am I, you know, I need to make this much money each month. How am I gonna make it work, right? Relationship stuff, obviously, right? Like I have my ex, you know, like if maybe you have an ex, or maybe you have someone that things are very up and down with, or someone that you guys, you know, you think it's a thing, but you don't know. You know, what, and maybe you kind of go back and forth, like what's, you know, when is it going to give? When am I going to know? If you're in a relationship, right? Like anything that was pushed, I always say this, like with different difficult transits, it's like things that aren't communicated about, things get pushed beneath the rug. There are certain transits that pull those up. When I do compatibility readings, and we talk live, I nearly always hear about these types of things, right? On a personal level, self-limiting beliefs as we're heading into this new chapter. Now, this is just March. Imagine like the entirety of the astrology that's coming. I made a video 7 or 8 years ago called "Look at the Astrology of 2025, 2026." Look at how crazy. I mean, it wasn't the title, but that's what I talked about. How crazy it is. I was like, this proves beyond a measure of a doubt that God is real through astrology. There's no way that the outer planets could shift. First Pluto to Aquarius. You know, their orbits are so different, right? Usually it's not, you know, it's not, they don't shift signs and aspect each other in such a short period of time. You know, then around the same time, a little bit later, but you know, because Pluto moves so slow, Pluto moves into Aquarius, right? Then you have Saturn, which is moving faster, Neptune really slow, but somehow at the exact same time, they move into Aries, which is 2 signs away, so a sextile with Pluto in Aquarius. And then the second or third slowest, Uranus, right, which takes 82 years to go through the whole zodiac, 84, 82, I always forget that, is at the end of Uranus, and it's about to be in Gemini. So at some point, August 2026, you have Uranus exact trine with Pluto, or you know, a trine with Pluto in air signs, and then right in the middle, it's called a mini grand trine. Do it, and then this. Imagine I have a third finger that goes like this. So it's like Uranus, Pluto, and then Saturn and Neptune. So that period, like that's God. Those are the 4, you know, major outer planets, right? Not talking about Chiron and Jupiter. To me is like a middle planet, but still like that. And then you have, you know, we have Jupiter changing to Cancer midway through this year. I know I just started talking about grand astrology, but Everything kind of connects to the whole. And at the end of the day, when you think about how, it's very important to kind of talk about all this, because like when you talk about those major ones, like I always say it like this, like we're going from a time where the Pluto, which rules the energies, I think it's almost like the sun sign of a period, is in Capricorn, which, let's not talk shit about Capricorn, okay? Like, we saw what Pluto and Capricorn was about, right? We saw the patriarchy, you know, we saw, you know, business is all that matters, profits at all costs, all that stuff, right? We saw a more negative side. Now, people give a lot of light, but people forget that Aquarius, like the Aquarius is very much about the world, very much about humanity. But then it can also be like, this can also be very, very chaotic. And I've said this in a video before, that the shadow of these three, but let me continue with what I'm saying, right? So Pluto to Aquarius, so you're going from like a very slow, steady earth sign Capricorn, right? And if you want to conceptualize this better, think of it as a person. So the person has a sun sign in Capricorn versus the new person that has, because this is the energy that rules us, right? If you think about energy and imagine energy is like something that's like colors in the sky that all over us that we can't see, right? Capricorn, you know, it has that kind of, you know, I love Capricorn, but it has that steady, but not the most dynamic, right? Aquarius is, you guys know how Aquarius are. Now, not every Aquarius is like that, is all Uranian. Some are very Saturnian, but you know, it's an air sign. It's all over the place, very social, very active, very humanitarian, very much about freedom and people doing what they want to do, giving people freedom, not trying to control people, etc. Now, then you have Neptune, which to me would be more like the moon sign, right? From Pisces, its home sign, to Aries. So that's where it gets crazy, right? Because it's like, all right, so Neptune and Pisces, a lot of people are becoming more spiritual, have been, even if it's not in the way that we're used to. Like, some people might think like, okay, like how, I don't think that there's going to be a war, by the way. A war as we know it. I truly don't. The reason for that is that it's more intuitive. I think there'll be wars of information. I mean, if you consider like the COVID wars, stuff like that, you know, wars on our mind, right? Wars between people, you know, that are more ideological. But yeah, so I think that Neptune, you know, moving from Pisces to Aries, which starts March 30th, right? That is a shift of the, you know, of our spirituality into something that's more a new beginning, right? But Aries is like a way more out there fire energy, right? So a lot of disillusionment, I think, will go away, and kind of seeing things for what they truly are. But so now we have like the person who's a Capricorn Pisces versus the person who's an Aquarius Aries. Like, imagine like one person would probably be like really like chill, kind of great imagination, but more repressed potentially. Although Armin van Buuren, my favorite artist ever, is literally a Capricorn Sun, Pisces Moon. So yeah, but you know, I'm just showing you guys a different perspective, right? Where it's like that Aries Moon is going to unleash everything, you know. It's, and the Aquarius is kind of like, okay, let's go for it, you know. If especially an Aquarius Sun, Aries Moon is going to be a very interesting person. But this is the thing, is that but then the ascendant will be Gemini. It will go from Taurus to Gemini. So you're going from someone who's Taurus rising, Capricorn Sun, Pisces Moon, like the ultimate homebody, to someone who is Gem rising, Aquarius Sun, Aries Moon. Now, just let me plug in my battery so this doesn't die. I don't lose this whole video. But give that a second to think about, and then try to apply that. Try to imagine energy in that way that I told you, like where it's the backdrop of everything. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I did. My chargers are so messed up. So try to imagine it like that. It's just kind of like crazy, right? It's like, so which one has potential to be a little bit more chaotic? Now, maybe like the one that we're just ending now, like can be very frustrating because it could be kind of boring. It can be kind of repressed. It can be, especially like with Uranus and Taurus compared to Uranus and Gemini. Now that is like Uranus, the planet of change in the slowest sign, can be very frustrating, right? But also we have to think that all people with Taurus placements in the last few years have been awoken in some way by this Uranian revolutionary freedom loving energy. They're not the same as they were before, right? People with cardinal placements have gone, with, whether it's Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, Libra, in the last many, 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 many years have gone through their own death, rebirth, transformation. Now it's been in there for so long that, what year did it move in? Hold on. What year did Pluto move into Capricorn again recently? And also, what year did was it 2000? Did Pisces or Neptune move into Pisces and Uranus move into Taurus? And while you got to give me the exact dates that Uranus moves into, I know you're going to be wrong, but the Uranus moves into Gemini first, and then Neptune, the different dates. I know March 30th is one of them, but it moves into Aries, that Saturn moves into Aries, and I already know for Pluto and Aquarius. But yeah, so, and then you have Saturn moving out of Pisces too, which to me, yeah, it's just very symbolic, it's very symbolic of a time that has been way more introspective for us. And I think that this full moon really, really represents the start of something massive, right? A start of like a new look forward, a new idea. I think this March, we just have to grind it out. We just have to really grind it out. Take a day, but each day is a new lifetime. Don't allow these stories to become huge become real in your head about who you are. Like if you're like me, I also have Saturn exactly square my moon, so FML. But that's been one of the most important things for me to not lose my mind in the last few months with all the transits I have, has been knowing that, dude, like you can wake up one day and change your life. You can wake up one day and be a different version of yourself. Like you might have like 2 weeks where things are just not amazing, and then boom, out of nowhere they become really good. Okay, so Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008, and so 2008. Neptune, fully in 2012, but started in 2011, and Uranus, 2018, and fully 2019. So you see when I say it enters it for the first time, then it retrogrades back into that sign, and then about a year later or so, sometimes longer, depending on the planet, then it's fully in that sign. So we're in that period now, right? So we look at Uranus and Gemini. So July 7th, 2025, it enters Gemini. But it's April that it fully enters it of next year, right? Because the retrograde is back in November. But already, this year we're really starting to see that. And then Neptune in Aries, like I said, March 30th, then October 22nd, it retrogrades back, and fully by so yeah, it is actually, no, it's August of 2025. August, I forget, is August 15th? Yeah, it's this year, not next year. What am I talking about? That's a day where they're all aligning. So by next January 26th, it's fully in Aries, Neptune. Saturn, it's May 24th is the first time it enters Aries. Thank God, away. For us mutable placements, we need to throw a party. Already with Neptune, March 30th, we'll still feel like I'm like 28-degree Pisces, Sun and Mercury. So I don't know. But, mutable Pisces, Gemini, Sag, Virgo, it's time to have a party. Really but yeah. And then September 1st, the retrograde is back into Pisces, Saturn, and it goes so fast. And then February 13th the next year, it fully enters Aries. So let's go revise those dates. And then Pluto, as we said, it is, it's fully in there since November 19th. So let's revise that. So for Uranus, it's fully in Gemini next April 25th. Neptune, fully in Aries, meaning that it doesn't retrograde back January 26th next year. And Saturn, February 13th next year. So January, February, April, and then Pluto's there. So really in the first movements, July for Uranus of this year, March 30th for Neptune, May. So we see, based on that data, that already with Pluto, it's already there, right? Because Pluto moves slower, so the other ones are catching up to the party. That we're really approaching this, we're so close for that first pin to fall, right? That first domino to fall of Neptune, which moves super slow, so, but still. And then, just a few months down the line, we have these other planets. We have the two other ones that will, move out of their sign. So this will be such a breath of fresh air, especially if you've been going through it, especially if you've been, regardless of anything, just like for anyone with any placements, just new energy, right? Is a new opportunity. Like, how do you know, like what houses are these energies in, if you look at it from a whole sign perspective, right? Or equal house perspective, whatever, right? I guess whole sign would be it. But, like, what's your Aries house, for example? Mine's the 9th house. What's your Gemini house? Mine's the 11th. And what's your Aquarius house? Mine is the 7th, I mean, in whole sign. So yeah, that's one way to look at it. Hope you guys enjoyed this. So let me know if you guys like this type of video. I guess it's more like a podcast, so I probably should just make it an hour. So first of all, I just want to say, if anyone wants to book a reading, I'll say this before I end. I have a lot of availabilities. My natal chart, the way I do it, I either do a recorded where we do 2 hours. I usually make it around 2 hours, and then we usually have a separate follow-up, but you could just get you could just get only the reading if you want. My most popular is the live reading. That is what it sounds like. It's as many hours as it has to be. I'm a perfectionist. All I care about is you knowing everything. If you're someone who needs it to be done in a certain period of time, that's fine. But a lot of times we'll just do the reading and we'll have like a conversation after. I don't care. I like becoming friends with my clients. I come across really amazing people. So all that's on my website, jesseinnisontastrology.com. And yeah, let me guys know what you guys think about this format. I mean, should I do this every month? I know it's long, but I know that some people just like to, maybe I should just call this like, episode one of my Astro podcast or something. I used to have one with my best friend Trey, but he is getting married now, so it's works a lot, so it's harder for him to find time. But I don't know. What do you guys think about this? I think podcasts are usually better when there are two people, which wouldn't be hard for me to find. For me, I have to do things when I feel them, So maybe I won't call this, maybe I'll call this a podcast, but regardless, this should give you a lot of information. Let me know in the comments how you're reacting to this energy, how you expect this energy to be. And best of luck for March. I know for me, I'm trying to stay dialed in. It's the 25th of Feb right now as I record this. And we're all going to make it out. We're all going to be chill. It's just, and understanding astrology is such a gift because it gives that flashlight of awareness. And from that, we're able to make massive, massive shifts. So I will say goodbye. Ciao. Love you all. Bye-bye.